Welcome to Nutty Buddy Sports.
We're gonna talk a little bit about some of this breaking news that is coming through, and then we're gonna recap week 18, and then we're gonna talk about the playoffs. And don't let me forget to ask you how you feel about your Bucks' chances in the playoffs this year. So don't let me forget. Okay. So let's talk about some of the breaking news, though, because we are doing this and in live time, I'm getting all these reports of coaches being fired. So let's start with the more, I guess, the obvious ones. Nagy and Pace were fired, and Zimmerman and the GM also for the Vikings was fired. Any thoughts on the firings there?
I mean, we all knew Matt Nagy was going to be let go. I mean, he wasn't doing anything for the Bears. I didn't think Mike Zimmer did that bad of a job with the Vikings. I just don't like their choice when they signed Kirk Cousins. I think that's a major problem because they've always been kind of competitive. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. I think like with the Vikings, especially like this year, they've played everybody close. The problem is though, where I kind of understand it is like the Vikings defense, which is supposed to be like Zimmer's strong suit, hasn't been really that great the last couple of years. Like, and granted, it's a little bit of injury and all that stuff, but all teams deal with all that stuff. So to me, if he's a defensive coordinator, and you don't have you can't have a solid defense year to year, maybe it's just time for you to refocus and maybe not be head coaching and maybe focus more on defense. I think he's going to be a great defensive coordinator somewhere else.
Yeah.
Nagy, I don't know if he'll ever get hired. Maybe somebody will hire him as an offensive coordinator, but I just don't.
Why would you?
Yeah. His refusal to it sounded like when Justin Fields started, he didn't really change the playbook for him. So, which is crazy to me, considering the talent that he can be at times. So, like with his legs, you're not going to write the same playbook for Andy Dalton as you would Justin Fields. So, that to me was a red flag. So I understood that. And I guess the Zimmer one, I kind of understand, but I don't, because if you look at Kirk Cousins' stats, he's not actually that bad, like statistically. So, the defense isn't that great. So I would say that maybe it's just like you need a new voice because he's been there forever.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I will say with Matt Nagy, you never know. Someone might give him a chance, considering some people are, some coaches like Bill O'Brien's getting interviewed for a head coaching gig, and why in the world anyone wants to interview him for a head coaching gig is beyond me. The Jaguars were interviewing him for the coaching vacancy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Bill O'Brien's the Texans former head coach, right? Yeah. And I'm like, why would you ever interview that guy? But like, I get what you're saying about Kirk. I don't know. I always feel like he was a poor man's Peyton Manning. Like, puts up a lot of stats in the regular season, but can't actually win games for you, big games. Or that's what I always thought about him. But but the defense does need a lot of improvement in the Vikings, because I know injuries have effect on every team, but I mean, there's literally every team can use that as a reason why something's not going well. At this point in the season, last week, there's not a single team that doesn't have someone on IR, most likely, or COVID lately.
Right.
So
last year, the Vikings defense ranked 29th. This year it was 24th. So if your strong suit is supposed to be defense and your defense is ranked in the mid to low 20s, that's not a good sign.
Outside of Rodgers and the Packers, I mean, you look at the division. For me, I always look at the division and see, okay, you could understand if you're playing some of the top tier, like in the NFC, I want to say West with the Rams. You can understand why some defenses might be more in the middle, even if they're really good, because you're versing top tier offenses in most of weeks. Well, you got the Bears and the Lions, and no offense to either of them team, but they're not you'll be surprised if they put up 30 points a game, 30 points in a game. So you should have a better defense because of that. I mean, it helps when you but you do versus Rodgers and Green Bay. So, I mean, that's never helps anything, but.
Right, but I think that's a great point, though. You play the Lions and the Bears, and their offenses aren't anything to write home about. So, like, your defense by default should be in the top 20, like, because that's 4 of your games, right? Not to mention other teams that you probably have an opportunity to beat up on. But the fact that the Vikings play every single team to the last possession, I feel like even teams that they're clearly more talented in, I mean, it's got to be more than just the quarterback. It's sort of the culture to me. So I understand that.
Yeah.
So what about, so I got reports yesterday about Anthony Lynn being fired as the Lions offensive coordinator. I didn't get an update of whether that happened or not. So that's just like a rumor at this point until it's confirmed. Do you have any thoughts on that? Just because our dad's a Lions fan, obviously. So we're a little more in touch with the Lions.
Yeah, I didn't think he was doing a terrible job. I don't think again, I'm not trying to blame everything on the quarterback, but I've never liked Jared Goff. And the Lions offense is, again, nothing to write home about. But I think there's better offensive coordinators out there. I actually read somewhere that someone was looking at Jon Gruden for an offensive coordinator, and I'm not a head coach, an offensive coordinator. And when I heard about the Lions potentially firing their offensive coordinator, I'm like, that wouldn't be a bad option because he knows offense. He knows how to get the most out of a quarterback, and that's what you need because you're going to have Goff for probably another 2 years because from my understanding, there's not anything coming up in the draft that's all that intriguing. So,
yeah, I think it goes that'd be pretty interesting considering the drama surrounded around him too, because you got to deal with the media stuff with that. But with Jon Gruden, but Anthony Lynn, the only reason why I'm sort of taken aback by it because I think you're right. I'm not a fan of Goff, and until they got Josh Reynolds, I wouldn't say the Lions really had. And then Amon St. Brown there. Amon-Ra St. Brown. He started coming on towards the end of the year, but before that point, their skill position players outside of tight end wasn't that great. So like I don't think their wide receivers were that good all year, except towards the end when they got Josh Reynolds and like I said, when the rookie started stepping up. But so to me, I'm just like, you're asking them to cook in a kitchen with not a lot of ingredients, so to speak, right? So that's why I didn't understand. So you're firing him, but at the same time, if you're going to get a young guy in there eventually, you have to be confident in the offensive coordinator, so you're not firing the guy every year. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, you don't want to put what you put through with Stafford on having a different coach / offensive coordinator. I mean, every single year. So if you're not happy with them, you might as well get rid of them now and find someone better or that you think is better. I mean, I like DeAndre Swift.
I do too. That's right. Yep.
Of course, TJ Hawkinson's one of my favorite tight ends in the league. And then I honestly didn't know much about the Lions receivers. St. Brown, I obviously was coming on near the end and he looked pretty good, but I always get concerned about those people who get hot near the end of the season being consistently good. Hopefully he is. The Lions need, you're right. They need more help on their offensive side of the ball. I mean, I don't think they're that many players away from being in good offense, but they're just enough where you're asking a lot from an offense coordinator to get a lot of points out of these guys.
Correct. Correct. So yeah, I don't know if they'll fire him because it never was reported yet, but yeah, anyway, we'll see what happens. So let's talk about the big news that happened this morning. Turn the camera on for this one. No, I'm just joking. Although this is probably the part I'll post on YouTube because I cannot believe me and behind the curtain, everybody, me and Eric getting ready to podcast, I get an alert from Bleacher Report that Brian Flores is fired by the Miami Dolphins. And they're going to keep their GM, Chris Greer. That's what the reports are saying. And I'm just like, what in the world? What in the world? Before I get into it, Eric, your thoughts on the firing of Brian Flores?
I don't like it. I thought Flores was doing a great job with the defense. The offense was less than exciting, but I thought it was like getting better. I like some of the players on the offense for the Dolphins. I think I get why they're trying to make a move at quarterback. But the thing is that they were 2 years in a row, I think, one game out of being in the playoffs. And I mean, yeah, it stinks that they didn't get in the playoffs, but you're talking about a team that was drafting in the top 5 consistently almost, or top 10 consistently. I mean, in 3 years to be one game outside the playoffs, I know you'd rather be in the playoffs, but I thought he was doing a great job. So I don't like that move by Miami.
He swept the Patriots this year. They beat the Patriots both times this year. Yeah, I'm lost for words. The defense has been pretty good this year. It was good last year. I think the offense is the reason why the defense wasn't as good this year, because the offense couldn't move the ball consistently. Now, maybe that is why he got fired, is because after 2 years with Tua, they might expect him to be able to move the ball on offense better. Their offensive line is awful. And so to me, in fact, last time I checked, they had the 32nd ranked passing offensive line. That's how bad the offensive line has been. Why you're keeping the GM who have, Chris Greer, who has drafted these offensive line, who has drafted Tua, who, over the coach who has made a lot out of a little, right? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Even the first year, Brian Flores, they were supposed to go like 1-6, 1-15, and they went 5-11 and played themselves out of the number 1 pick. And this year, it's just I don't get it. I'm a loss of words. I don't understand. Tua's definitely a problem. I don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. He'll be a good backup quarterback, but he doesn't got the arm. I just don't see it. He's heaving these balls with his entire body and throwing it 40 yards downfield. And I can throw 40 yards downfield if I heave my entire body into it as well. So like, he's accurate at times. I'll give him that. But in the NFL we live in, with the spacing and all that stuff and getting the ball downfield, he doesn't seem to have the arm for it. So I don't know why we're blaming Flores for the horrible drafting that has been on Chris Greer, if that is what they're pointing to. So I hate it. It sounds like there was a report that said they were going to go after Jim Harbaugh. So that could be a possibility. But then I had a report that said they aren't going to go after Jim Harbaugh. So I don't know. Maybe they're going to go after Eric Bieniemy, like try to get an offensive coordinator in there to help Tua grow. But I don't think Tua is the answer. So that's if that's your path that you're choosing, it's a bad path, and we're going to be put back like 6 more years. It's just awful.
Well, and then my question, one of my favorite people I follow on Twitter said, "Can Dolphin fans please explain this one like I'm a 5-year-old?" Because it doesn't make sense. I don't get why they fired him. He's done really well with Miami, and I get that the division was more open last year and should have been open this year, but they did what they needed to do. They beat the Patriots twice, which has been the bully of that division for years, decades actually. And I agree. Again, I'm not trying to make it a common theme, but I think the big problem is the quarterback. And if they get one of the bigger name quarterbacks, or even second to third tier quarterbacks that are coming in free agency or might become available via trade this year, I think the Dolphins would have a serious shot of winning divisions and making playoffs. And you never know how they might play from there, because I do think they have a lot of talent on that team. They need a better offensive line, but I do think the team has a lot of talent. But I don't get why you're letting go of coach that's showing progression. Maybe it was a 7-game losing streak this year that didn't help his case, but he flipped it around really quick. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't get it either. I just when I saw that, I was like, what? That's crazy. So either they have to have somebody lined up. That's the only thing I could think of is like, and I know Steve Ross went to Michigan. That's his alma mater or whatever they call it. Like whatever. I don't know I probably pronounced it wrong, but he probably wants Jim Harbaugh. That's the only thing I can think of, even though some reports said it's not that. But man, that's tough for me.
Wasn't the Dolphins after Jim Harbaugh when he was becoming available until he for a while? So I mean that could be the case. And I personally think Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. I thought he got a raw deal with the Niners because I don't understand how come I still don't understand how he got let go from the Niners. They were doing really good, and yes, they had a fall off, but like I still don't understand that.
Yeah, you go back and look though, like the Niners, they had those two really good. I know one was Patrick Willis, and I can't remember the other one. The two linebackers that kind of ran their defense, and one retired early, one got a serious injury. Like there was a lot that the Niners had to go through, but he took a team that wasn't really great and he made them a playoff contender. And like he made Colin Kaepernick look good. So I guess like my thing is I would be excited to get Jim Harbaugh, but I didn't think Flores was the problem. So I don't know.
And that's the other issue if you want to think about it this way is that now whoever the Dolphins hire, Jim Harbaugh, Eric Bieniemy, anyone, if they go after any of these coaches, all Dolphin fans are going to be looking at it as, are you going to really do better than what Brian Flores has been doing?
Yeah.
So if the defense starts to slip, if the offense doesn't improve, then everyone, all the fans are going to want that coach gone as soon as possible because they were progressing with Brian Flores. Sorry. So I don't get the logic here at all, and I agree with you on it's going to set your franchise back, which is really sad because the division is more open than it has been in the last 20 years. So I don't like the move at all.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the performance against the Bills. I'm just because the Bills are probably like the team that we're looking at to beat, and the last 2 years they have destroyed us, and with their backups last year, including that. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. But again, when you don't have a good offensive line, actually one of the worst offensive lines, maybe it's the player development. Maybe they don't think he can develop players like on the offensive side of the ball, which could be true, but he's done a great job on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. A speculation. I hope it gets clear, like they explain clearly why they fired him, but I guess we'll have to see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I just read something that there might have been a little bit of a power struggle between him and the GM. So
Chris Greer.
Yep.
Well, even so, I think Flores has done his job better than Greer has. So I don't. Yeah. So obviously Greer probably has the ear of the owner more so than Flores. So that would kind of make sense. Real quick, we forgot to talk. Anything else? I'm gonna just kind of move on from this and wallow in depressed self-pity for a little bit.
That's fine. Moment of silence. No.
Yeah. Vic Fangio, I forgot to mention him. He was fired as well. The Broncos head coach. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think they needed a change on the Broncos side. They looked progressive a couple years ago, and they took a turn for the worse. So I mean, you gotta do what you got to do it. I mean, I didn't think he was. Again, I didn't think he was. He didn't have a lot of talent to work with. But it's never a good sign for a head coach when you go backwards. Correct. Yeah, and teams are impatient. You get only a couple years with them, and then you get let go. So I don't think I'm not surprised by that one either. The Broncos haven't been super great. So, or even, I don't think they've really been a playoff team recently, have they?
No.
So, I mean, they were showing I thought they were showing positive things. I want to say, was it last year, the year before? But I know this year they looked bad most of the time. Outside of when they beat the Cowboys, they looked pretty bad most of the time, I think. So
yeah, so I sort of agree. I think they've been sort of like there's like 12 teams in the NFL that are like roller coaster rides, and I put them on that sort of category where they're like can be good one week and then horrible the next. They had the number 3 defense this year. Again, I look at sort of why. So he's a defensive coordinator, and so he's done his job, so to speak. He helped that defense grow. But I go back to the draft. You draft my guy, Patrick Surtain Jr., which I wanted him to fall to the Dolphins at 18. I know that he would never have, but he should be a Dolphin because of lineage. But again, like they not drafting a quarterback, like what is like this obsession with Teddy Bridgewater doesn't make much sense to me. He's a very average quarterback at best. But
Teddy Two Gloves.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I checked his stats at the beginning of the year when we were doing like the season preview, and he hasn't had a season where he's thrown a touchdown, 20 touchdowns.
No.
And it's just like, well, what's the obsession with him? Why does he keep getting jobs at places to start? Like Drew Lock had an injured shoulder last year. They don't start him this year, and he looks awful now towards the end of the year. I thought they did horrible as far as developing him. And then you had in the draft, you could have drafted Mac Jones or Justin Fields, and you went with a corner, but your defense was fine. So I didn't understand that. So at some point, when do we look at the GM and be like, well, maybe he's just not putting the right pieces around, the team? So.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think Teddy Bridgewater is he's better than a backup quarterback, your typical backup, but he's not good enough to actually be a starter. I think he's in that realm, and then there's always going to be a coach that's like thinking, we're a quarterback away. Here's this guy who's probably better than my starter. There's plenty of teams that have bad quarterbacks right now, like Washington football team. Like, oh, he's probably better than both Heineke and I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he's probably better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. So they think they can make him a valid starter and all of a sudden have a playoff team. But I just don't think he's ever going to be that guy. But he's always going to get, I think he's going to get probably one more shot because some team's going to be like, we're just a quarterback away and think they can make it work with Teddy. And he's just never been that guy. He has never been that guy.
Yeah, he sort of reminds me, like, if the situation's perfect around him, he might be able to lead a team to a playoff. But in the NFL, you have no perfect situation. People get injured, and all that stuff. So there's that. And then the other thing is, I think he's the kind of quarterback that I would use as sort of a stopgap. Like, if I were the Jets or the Jaguars this past year, that's the kind of guy I'd want in front of my rookie, because I know, so my rookie doesn't get their ego destroyed or their confidence destroyed throughout the year, like they may have, considering how bad, like, Lawrence and Wilson has been through the year, the entire year, but it's partly because the roster is so bad around them, right? So that's where you put a veteran stopgap quarterback to let them deal with the pain of a horrible roster and let your rookie grow a little bit. So I think that's where Teddy should be, but you're right. I think there are coaches who think that they can make him a playoff quarterback.
Granted, I never liked Zach Wilson, even in the draft. I didn't think he deserved to get drafted number 2 overall, but 2 overall. Mm-hmm. But I get what you're saying on that. Both teams would have benefited from a pretty much throwing someone to the wolves type quarterback that isn't their rookie quarterback, because we've seen it multiple times where some talented rookie quarterback is on a team and all of a sudden they're just getting destroyed and get happy feet back there, or thinking they have to be a Superman behind their to make their team even win a game, and then it doesn't work out well. That's why a lot of top quarterbacks fail so easily. I mean, everyone should know. I mean, we know that. So
yeah, 50% of them do. And the reason, and I agree with you, the reason why they get on these bad teams, they develop bad habits. So like by year 3 or 4, where the team's kind of ready to win, the quarterback's already used to not having an offensive line, so he's always like, oh my god, what's going on? Like he feels like there's pressure even though there might not be pressure, or he's always checking the ball down even though receivers might be open downfield. It's because they get into these bad habits the 2 years that they're rebuilding, where if you had a Teddy Bridgewater, like Zach Wilson's a perfect example. The biggest knock on him was they're like, he needs time to develop. Like that's what they were saying, like he might not be ready, but he has a ton of potential. And that would have been the perfect situation to put a Teddy Bridgewater and let him get the other people up to speed on the offense, the young guys, and then let Wilson learn behind Teddy Bridgewater. That's what those types of quarterbacks are there for. But it is what it is, I guess. And I just got another message from Bleacher Report that Dolphin fans are furious. Yeah, we are. We don't get it. So
there's Dolphin fans.
Just all three of us are really upset right now. So we're in a text chain right now.
So, we got a Facebook group going.
Okay, well let's you ready to get into recapping week 18? Hopefully you guys enjoyed that clip of the podcast. If you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast where me and Eric break down week 18 and predict the playoffs, go ahead and click on that link below. Subscribe and like to the YouTube channel here, and also let us know your thoughts in the comment section. How are you feeling on this NFL Black Monday? Let us know below. Thanks again so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.